There are 15 balls in that. Okay. So I'm in danger in the hall. Can you see the number 4? Number 4. And my steady coworker is keeping track. So what happened? Number 4 will go into my pocket because these, because they're relatives of members, get a second chance along with all of the others who were not relatives of members. So they stay. And I mentioned we had a total of 21 applications. These bags. I take them to the the store now because they don't give out plastic bags any longer. Okay. You're willing to? You're going to do it. Okay. Number 3. Oh, 3 and 4. What a coincidence. Yep, that's 3. Okay, so thank you for listening for those at home. And thank you. The labor of love.
And apologies to those online for the technical difficulties. I think we're okay now. As long as nobody bumps into these. One of the other traditions our chapter has is our book raffle. So we offer at least 1 to 3 or 4 signed books each time. So we're bringing back a couple legacy books, Project Management for Parents by Hillary Kinney, and then Hack Your Bureaucracy by Marina Nitz and Nix and I, who have federal CIO experience. So both are signed. We realize some may not be parents in the room, so the first winner will be able to pick which book they want. 6181, last 4. Great. If you want to come around here. Okay.
You need to check it.
No, we can't trust you. Here's great job. And then 6186. Nobody? Okay. Somebody may have left. 6191. Anybody like that one? Hey, we got a winner. makeshift recording and put it on the YouTube channel, or just give the same presentation in the home office. So, but a good opportunity to, if you live in Frederick County, Hood College is just right downtown, or if you don't have anything else to do Wednesday, you want to earn a PDU, it could be a good opportunity. And that'll be in the newsletter and on our LinkedIn page. Another plug for our LinkedIn group. If you aren't currently, you don't have to be a valid member, but we'll post things, and it's an opportunity for the almost 2,000 members of the chapter to collaborate with each other as well. Okay, does anybody need a job or that wants to come up here and give an elevator speech, or have a job that they want to promote and plug? And if anybody has any opportunities in chat, or if you want to use the chat function for that, we can communicate that. Yep. All right. If you want to walk around this way, just so we don't lose the connectivity. Okay, round of applause for our brave attendee here.
Thank you, and good evening, everybody. So I'm Takawai Chandwana. I'm known by Taka. I use it as a shorter name, easier for everybody. I've been recently laid off. I'm a project manager. Before being a project manager, I was a developer, then an IT manager. I worked for about 20 years in IT. So I've been with UPS, building some automated sorting systems, building connections, visibility of the app, packages that come to your door. And then I moved over to green energy. I joined Vastella.
And he'll be staying around afterwards if anybody has any extra time or opportunities or mentoring. Okay, we're also one of the few chapters in the global landscape that posts as much of our content that's approved on our chapter YouTube channel, including tonight's presentation. So if you need PDUs, if you need background noise on a call, this is a great opportunity. Claim codes are in the comments. If you are watching something from 2023 back to 2020 when we started this and the claim code doesn't work, just get in touch with us and we'll unretire that for you. We're also one of the few chapters in the global world that has their own Toastmasters group. So we have representation from their chapter leadership team, so we'll call them up. Round of applause for them.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Alan Zheng. I'm the VP of Membership at PMI-Montgomery County Toastmaster Club. With me tonight is our VP of Education, Supreet. Today, we are going to do something different. We're going to switch our roles, and I will give a short introduction, and Supreet whether or not you believe me. Believe her whether or not you believe me. How do I do that? I'm going to ask you 3 quick questions, and you will answer with either yes or no. Simple. It's fun, and it takes only a minute, I promise. Okay, so my first question is, will you answer my next 2 questions with yes or no? Yes to participate, no to observe. It's a simple question. There's no trick here. So yes, I see most of say yes. Good. Now my second question, listen carefully. My second question is, if my third question is, do you believe Supreet? Will your answer to that question the same as your answer to this question? Yes or no? One more time. My second question is, if my third question is, do you believe Supreet? Will your answer be the same to that question, to the third question, as the answer to this question? Yes, meaning the answer will be the same. No means the answer will be different. No. Now, the third won't be the same. So you must say yes for the third question. I know it's a little challenging after we had a meal. So, so this logic, this is, I can explain later. So this logic twist works best when you ask your boss for a raise or ask someone out for a date. Now that we all agree to believe Supreet, let's welcome Supreet.
Good evening. So how many here think that right now I'm super nervous and quaking in my boots? I don't see anyone here. And I will tell you, that is completely wrong. Because that is exactly what is happening to me right now. I am like nervous and absolutely shaking. But there's a massive difference between the fear that paralyzes you and adrenaline that drives you. For me, Toastmasters has provided me the environment to fail, but also given me the chance to try again and ultimately to succeed. It's given me tools to turn a dreaded task into a victory. If you're like me and thought of a microphone makes your palms sweat, you don't know what to do, what to say, how to say it, don't have a way of saying it, let me give you a story. Recently, in my leadership program, the Voyagers program, my team on the record had a monumental task of presenting a TED Talk style 8-minute short skit that had to be presented in front of about 170 people. And all of this was being judged as if we were on America's Got Talent. bag of tricks, so to say. I was able to actually use one of our electives directly from the pathways that we have within Toastmasters that gave me the exact framework and the exact timing for our skit. It gave me the layout, the script, and the necessary professional engagement and structure that I needed. But a script isn't just paper until you add a voice to it. That's where I use the club meetings to turn that into a safe space, giving me a chance to practice the skit before the big night. It wasn't just practicing my lines, it was practicing the feeling and the rhythm for that specific performance. When the night arrived and my nerves were definitely there, I was forgetting everything, kind of going all over the place. But as I stood in front of the live audience, something inside me shifted, remembering everything I've learned within Toastmasters, my breathing, my pacing, and also my connection. Because of that, I was able to work with my team to do our presentation. And my team, we were victorious in the fact that, to our surprise, we won first place and took the big prize of the night. So for me, Toastmasters didn't just teach me how to speak, it also taught me that I have something worth saying. And for those interested, I would encourage and recommend that you come and join one of our meetings. We have a meeting next week on Zoom. So we have 2 meetings on Zoom a month, and then we have 1 in person. So I would definitely recommend that if anyone's interested to come see Alan or myself and get more information for the next meetings. And we look forward to seeing you there.
Thank you so much. Okay, by a show of hands, virtually as well, who attended last Thursday's PM Expo, which was the free PMI Global event? Okay, about half. So if you forgot about it, if you didn't have available time on Thursday, you can still sign up retroactively and have on-demand access. There's still 13 PDUs to have, some good presentations.
It's it. Billy didn't tell me I was following the Toastmasters. You know, come on, I have jokes like that. You know, and my timing, you'll see, my timing is okay. All right, we're hot then. All right, so being a pilot, I enjoyed many years of 20/20 vision, and those years have passed me. So I'll probably drop the glasses at some point, and you'll all become invisible. I'll be able to read this. So long story. Well, you'll see. This is a long story short for sure. I think it was 2010, 2011. I had gone to the Army's SAMS program because my wife had wanted to Army life, right? So we get to Fort Leavenworth, Kansas. I don't want to go to Kansas. Kansas is terrible. Okay, whatever. I gotta go. After 6 or 8 months in, she's like, "Hey, you gonna do this SAMS thing?" Which is a very intense, like the most intense year of schooling that the military can give you. And I was like, "Well, I thought about it, but I didn't think you want to stay here." And it kind of is a challenge that maybe I don't want. So my wife was like, I'd like it if you, because it's an application, it's an interview, it's a test, it's all these things. It's literally, here's the globe, write as many countries' names as you can on it was part of the test. Pretty fun. I had studied, so I did okay. And then the final part is the interview, and I had a man who is notorious for being pretty mean, and he looked like a walrus. He has since passed, which we all miss him, but he triggered something in me that just lit the fire, right? So I did well, and it was the day that the results came out, And as military spouses know everything ahead of you, she's like, hey, did you get in? And I was like, get into what? And she goes, the SAMS course. I was like, oh, yeah, I did. She's like, you're not excited? Pretty good, pretty, high or low selection rate. She's like, you're not excited? I said, no, I'm really not. I just signed up for the next year reading 200 to 300 pages a day, having a Socratic method class every day, and then the rest of my life is tainted with this badge that I wear that puts you in bad places and bad problems. Sounds like a PMP, right? So, like, sure, yeah, we get to stay another year. So I went and did the course and did that, and then at the end of the course, you get your assignment, my follow-on assignment, and my follow-on assignment was Hawaii. But then for us, it was back to Hawaii, and that was too far away from the mainland and family, so I couldn't go back to Hawaii, which is a place I kind of like. But I said, okay, I'm going to give back Hawaii. And they're like, really? I said, really? So like, you get Afghanistan. I'm like, again, I guess. So my wife's like, we can. There was no aviation thing. You went in there as a planner. So war plans, strategic plans, all this stuff. Like, we need you to be the lead logistics planner. Like, okay, I am an aviator. But the good thing is, in Army aviation, vice other services, and not disparaging them at all, as the Army aviator, you are responsible for the parts, the maintenance, the all. Where like the Air Force has a maintenance officer, a flight operations officer, a pilot. It just does pilot things. In the Army, we do all the same. So I was like, okay, kind of stuff works. I was not a lift pilot. I was a Kiowa and then an Apache pilot. So I didn't really do logistics. I delivered things, like I said, I delivered things ballistically, which, yes, that was kind of my thing. I didn't want to do passengers. I didn't want to do that stuff. But I ended up doing this, right? So within the first week, General Petraeus was the commander of U.S. Force Afghanistan. He was at the White House in D.C. talking about the next phase of the operation. And we knew that we were going to have to do it in the middle of a surge, and we knew we were going to have to do a drawdown. And his going in position was, I'm going to draw down about a brigade, 3,000 to 5,000 people. We thought that was pretty reasonable. And he comes back, and we're like, okay, how'd it go? And I didn't really say that to him because he's a freaking General Petraeus, but in my mind, that's what I said. But really, I said, sir, what were the results of the, something official? And he's like, 33,000. I was like, 33,000 what? He goes, we have to cut 33,000 people from the force over here. And I'm like, well, wait, how do we do this with that? Because the Afghanistan war didn't go very well. I was there in the very, very beginning, and that stuff worked, right? In the very beginning. But then since then, it was kind of a, bit of a challenge. When I left there the first time, right after 9/11, the next group came in and we're like, what are they going to do, right? We hadn't found bin Laden yet, but we've done some stuff. And like, well, at least they could maybe build the road. There's supposed to be a road around. They've been trying to build the road around Afghanistan for, decades. And like maybe they build the road and then kind of built up security infrastructure, worked on some governance. But come back 8 years later, like, hey, I get in logistics. Like, I think we really need to build this road. Like, what have you been doing for the last 8 years, right? So that's kind of what I walked into, was very, very close to what I walked away from, 6, 7 years prior. So comes in, we got to take away 33,000 people. Things were we like, first thing, what are we going to count this as, right? Is it pallets? Is it boxes? Is it pounds? Is it, all these things? So we broke down 20-foot container equivalents of stuff. So it's like, how much is here? So I think it was 1.3 million 20-foot container equivalents of stuff, just based on the log books or the shipping manuals we looked at, or the shipping records, the inventory sheets, all that stuff. We like 1.3 million things. So this is when we knew our job was pretty serious. It was when they showed us the front page of the Washington Post the next day, and our number was above the fold. Like, Petraeus, much too. You cut 33,000 soldiers in 1.3 million. I'm like, oh boy. So we had our work cut out for us. So I was the first planner put in charge of the logistics piece of right sizing the stuff and the places and the things. And then we realized, obviously, that we had to kind of right size the mission and the stuff, the things people were doing. So like, okay, we're going to put that to the side because we got to determine how we're going to do this. So we had to rewrite the whole campaign strategy. Let's see where my slides say. Agenda. That'll be on the YouTube. You can pause if you want to look at it. Everybody always skips the agenda. I don't even know why people make them, but you probably supposed to have to go to Toastmasters, learn how to use an agenda. It's probably lesson number 2. They teach you how to use an agenda too? Good. So how do you manage the PM question, right? How do you manage a program when the scope changes by an order of magnitude overnight with no additional time or additional resources and while in combat, right? So that's fun. So focus. All right. So we sat down to rebuild the solution on what we're doing first, the warfighting part first. So we went and had to rewrite the entire theater campaign strategy. And what we came up with was that you can't, like, it was a tiered reduction. So it was like 3,000, then another 5,000, and then like the remainder of the 33,000 left in a big thing. So another thing ended up on the front page of the Washington Post. When I was explaining it to General Petraeus, I was like, so we do the same but leaner, and then we do more with less, and then we do different. That's kind of how we characterize those. Functions in a Afghan, military unit that we normally would have a special force team doing with a very small, indigenous force. So that was what we did, and then we moved on to the logistics side. By this point, I had all of 3 people working with me. So that was good. By the end, I'll jump forward to the end. By the end, it was 2 generals, 3 colonels, a couple of lieutenant colonels, still me, and a couple other lowly civilians and other things. So it was a group of about 30. But we did all the hard work in the beginning. I don't know why they showed up with all those people, but like most things, the government shows up late with not enough. So what's the difference between Afghanistan and Iraq? Because Iraq was going on at the same time, and Iraq was going through their drawdown, or just kind of finishing their drawdown. Is there a ghost, or is there a difference? Kind of freaking me out. All right. So I went TDY, so temporary duty, government travel, more in my job in Afghanistan than I had in any other job in my 15 years prior to that in the Army. And really in the 10 years after that. I traveled more from Afghanistan, commercial air, from Kabul International Airport to all over the Middle East and kind of all over the South Asia. And I went to a lot of frequent flyer. If Ariana Air had a frequent flyer program, that's the national airline of Afghanistan. Let me tell you, it felt like Spies Like Us, that bus that they drove through Afghanistan. It was like that, but in an airplane. I swear there were chickens in the overhead. I'm not kidding. So going to Iraq, I said, okay, how are you guys doing this? Oh, we just put everything in Kuwait. I was like, wow, this was a wasted trip, right? Because in Afghanistan, you're landlocked to help. I went to Bahrain, I went to Qatar, I went to Saudi, I went all over just trying to figure out how things flowed in the theater. We even went so far as to send call it a proof of principle, right? You remember those some of those in the room, you may remember the Russian missile wagons. So there was a Russian nuclear missile that went on a train. So we rented some of those. Turns out they're still around, or they were still around. I don't know now. But we're like, we need without. We chose that option because we had to ship armored vehicles, right? We want to do it covered so it wouldn't get pilfered or whatever. So we're like, hey, we're going to rent one of these Russian missile wagon trains, fill it up with mattresses because, hey, we're 33,000 people light. We don't need all these mattresses anymore. And we shipped them out through Russia. When the missile wagons got to the port, all of them, the entire train, empty. So we're like, I guess we're not going to do that, right? We had other avenues that we could go. We could go down through Pakistan, but the border of Afghanistan and Pakistan is the Baloch region, which is not necessarily friendly to either the Afghans or the Pakistanis. So that was rough. And then moving stuff within Afghanistan was a challenge because we had about a battalion's worth of trucks, which is maybe 70 for the entire country of Afghanistan, which isn't small. And we had to figure out how to move everything from all the outlying bases to these kind of inside bases where we could do all the parsing of equipment, we'll say. Call it the R4D process, which was like 2 R's too many because really what you did was just cut everything up and sold it to the Chinese. But that's a down to it where we have to regional patrols every week. And he's like, all right, what's the plan? So we kind of laid it out for him. Say, hey, we're going to flow stuff out from the outlying posts to the main posts. We're going to create a system where we decide what we're going to do with it, the disposition of it, and then it's going to go where it goes. So he's like, okay. And then from there, where does it go? Like, well, the stuff that actually is going to leave the country is going to come here to Bagram or maybe to Kabul, and we're going to fly it out. And there was the airfield at Kandahar we used a little bit too. We're going to fly it out. So like we'll fly out everything, and we're going to fly out everything that we can. Everything else is going to get all the R's done to it. So R's repurpose, redistribute, resell. Yes. Here's what's funny, right? The resell piece. We thought it was a great idea. Hey, all these countries need these armored vehicles that we got here in abundance. Nobody wanted to buy them because you know what they didn't come with? The bumper to bumper maintenance package, right? Yeah. So they were smarter than us. Yes, exactly. We needed the general, but yeah. So it was something else. So what we ended up doing was a lot of the the destruction piece. It turns out you can those armored vehicles are made of very high quality steel. China needs a lot of high quality steel. And oh, by the way, China does touch Afghanistan, and it's just on the side of Pakistan, and they would buy it at a premium in 12 by 12-inch pieces. So imagine cutting up one of those big giant armored vehicles into 12 by 12-inch pieces. And if you know anything about a plasma torch, it takes a while. And it takes a lot of torches. So we had the scale set, 1.3 million 20-foot equivalent units. And that's everything from delivering that news. So we every day we brief them and we got it moving, right? And then we got to the point where, hey, we're going to need, so we're getting all these people out, but we're going to need 5,000 people to come in specifically to do this. Because when you're cutting your force, your combat force, and you're conducting a major logistics operation to get stuff out, those people, then you'd be taking 5,000 people from an already diminished force to do that, right? So it's like, what sense does that make? And in this, I'm not taking credit, I'm taking partial credit. But I was like, that doesn't make any sense. I'm like, well, that's the BOG rule. So the boots on ground rules are what Congress uses to say how many people you can have in theater at any one time. Because if you don't have those, then the military will run amok and bring everything and actually get the job done, right? Because you want to drag it out and make the money. But didn't say that. Oh, damn it, YouTube. But so, well, like the BOG rules don't support these additional 5,000 people. And I'm like, I knew a little bit about laws. I'm like, these BOG rules are encoded in the policy in the NDAA. How about we change the law? So one of the many things that is sent up through the Pentagon to the executive desk over to across the street. And the funny thing about that is, you want to talk about efficiency. I start with a 30-slide briefing. Then I have to go through 2 06 colonels, a 1-star, a 2-star, a 3-star, and then to General Petraeus. And General Petraeus got 6 slides, 30 slides, 6 slides. The tank brief, 4 or 5. SecDef, like 1 quad chart. President, a memo like that long, right? So it got to the point where I'm doing this. There's so many projects that are wrapped up in this project. I'm sure you got you. Got to the point where I'm briefing the 1-star, and he's like, John, I don't like that slide. Like, I know you don't. So I made this one. And I flipped to the next slide. He's like, oh, I like that slide. I said, here's the deal. So as we're moving through this and we start establishing the systems, and then we had to go through. So not only did we have to convince the theater and then the services and the Defense Department and sometimes the SecDef and the president, there's Transportation Command, which is in Scott Air Force Base, that was in charge of all the movement. So you have Transportation Command, and then under Transportation Command, you have AMC, Air Mobility Command. The Army has its own AMC, which was involved. The Army Materiel Command, because God knows there's only so many letters in the alphabet. So big AMC, Air Force AMC, and then you had what's called SDDC, which was involved, which was an Army organization that ran all surface shipping. Air Force flying stuff, to include commercial air. SDDC, all the surface stuff. They had Navy people too, but it was Army run boats, trucks, all that stuff, and then the theater stuff. So I had to go over to Transcom every 2 or 3 months to give them the plan, because we were spending a lot of money flying stuff. I'll get to that story in a second. So I'm walking through, this, talk about stakeholder management, right? Walking through Transcom, going from one meeting to the next. This Air Force 2-star walks out in the hallway and sees me and goes, "Are you that Schaffner guy from Afghanistan?" I'm like, "Guess so," And he's like, "Get in my office," which is never good when you're a major and a 2-star says, "Get in my office." And he's like, "Sit down." I'm like, "Of course." Brings in his XO, his colonel, and hands me the slides that I briefed Petraeus that week. He's like, "Explain this to me." Like, okay. So I did. And I must have passed because he says, "Oh, that makes sense." I'm like, "God, I got to make better slides or notes or something, right? I don't need that kind of trouble again." So at that point, I had AMC and Transcom on my side. The SDDC guys were easier because we both spoke Army, but they were loggies, and I was kind of a pseudo loggie by that point. Although they never liked it that I was an aviator. But at that point, we had kind of built the coalition. So we had the scope, we had the tools, sort of. And then we had the coalition of stakeholders involved to make this global friggin', wasn't a catastrophe because we didn't. And eat, really. So sleep, eat, and work. So that's pretty much what we did. There was no days off. There were no days off, except for the Sunday church after having the meeting with Petraeus, which was always good. But we get to October and we're doing the briefing with Petraeus, and we're like, and here's our shipping, our throughput for the next 2 months. He's like, "Why is it less?" I said, "Well, there's less aircraft available." So what was happening was, in a stroke of genius from some of my logistics friends, and I would give them credit, like, "Hey, all this stuff that we're shipping to China, the back ends of these cargo aircraft are going back empty." So what we did was we reroute aircraft from China to land in Afghanistan, get filled up, and then we pay them a rate because they'd otherwise be flying back empty. So we were getting cheap aircraft or cheap loads. And he's like, why is this stopping?" I said, "Well, sir, prices went up." He's like, "Why did they go up?" I'm like, "Christmas." He just looks at me. I said, "All that stuff that they shipped to China is now coming out of China in the form of the latest toys and crap that are going to go on the shelves of American stores for Christmas." He's like, "What?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Well, isn't there more?" I said, "No, this is all there is." It's fun to say things like this and mean it. It's all there is in the entire world. It's like you tell your kids, right? It's all there is. There's no more M&Ms. But no, I was serious. This is all there is in the entire world. We have it all right now, and we're not going to have it all later because the kids of America need it. Now, you can go and get me, and I had the number. I said, "You can go get me like $3.5 billion more dollars, and we can ruin Christmas. Or we just, yeah, exactly. We just let it slide and then ramp it up again in January. He's like, funniest look I've ever seen on that man's face. He was defeated, but like accepting, which was a good thing. He's like, all right, good. But maybe we can get some more ships out of Karachi, but then we bombed some Pakistanis again and they shut down the lock. So as I was getting ready to leave the country, and I came back, getting ready to leave the country, we had established the flow, we'd established all the locations. So that's about the point that I left. And then I went to do an aviation job, which made me happy, right? And then I realized, well, I didn't realize, I was told, you're going to do this job because they had a cool down period for deployments, and they could sign a memo and alleviate it. But this was my that was my fifth deployment. This upcoming one was going to be my sixth deployment over just for about not like special forces deployments. This was like year-long friggin' bitches, except for one was 8 months. So between my fifth and sixth deployment, they gave me 365 days to the day. Like, and welcome back, right? So I show up and I'm an aviation guy again. I'm happy. I'm an aviation brigade XO, running aircraft, doing that thing, right? Plenty to do. And the general of the regional command that I was in found out that I planned that mess that he was dealing with. He's like, two-star general, hey, come here. Damn it. So he had some Canadian general running it. He smoked like a chimney. It's like Canadians, right? He looks great. It's funny, but that's all I remember. He's like flicking the butt as we got on the helicopter and he got off and put another in. I'm like, that's wild. Who does that anymore? But Canadians. But so we go and he's like, I want to show you this, right? So we take a tour of all the things that I had built, and we get to I believe, Shkin, which is like in the south east part of Afghanistan. Is a crappy place, and there were nice places in Afghanistan. Don't get me wrong, because there really were. Great trout fishing, very little known fact. As long as they don't, otherwise shoot you, you can do some great trout fishing in Afghanistan. Public service announcement. If it ever gets peaceful over there, I will start a guide business. But he's like, we were flying into Shkin, and I'm like, what is that? There's a big lot with all these trucks in it, like thousands of trucks. And I knew how big that lot was supposed to be. And it wasn't thousands of trucks. It was hundreds of trucks at the most. It disappeared the next day. Even if you let it sit out, tons of material, you leave it sitting out, it's gone. Like, how did you, it's crazy. So he did that, and we ended up cutting up a heck of a lot more trucks than we initially planned. But and then the guy that was in charge of that 5,000 person unit had shown up. He was there for about 3 months. And they made little special patches with the name that we made up for them. And I thought it was really funny seeing this guy how proud of the patch of the name. And I didn't have the heart to tell him that the name that we named the unit had a baked in joke to it, right? That was like an inside joke to us. And I was like, hey, that's great. And of course, as soon as I get back, I'm on the email and telling everybody, hey, they're wearing patches with the name on it. But yeah, so it worked for the most part. There were limitations. There were challenges. And I guess I probably could show more slides, but I told the story instead. But it was a challenge and it was a hell of a project. It ended up being, you know, what we thought was going to be something that was manageable ended up being quite a bear. And again, starting with me and then another major, and then a lieutenant colonel, ended up with two generals and, you know, all this stuff. The funny story, I still see the generals. Like every event I go to, they're there. And I don't know why. Like they need to just go on vacation or something, but they just can't give it up. They're very high energy guys. It was to the point where you have this, back in the day, you had Tandberg machines. Remember, like one of the first VTCs? And we had one at the end of the table, which faced the office where we all worked. And we would have the little, you know, the dust. And overall, that part of the mission went okay. Afghanistan itself, massive challenge. Continued to be the end, continues to be now. But I think it's been a challenge for about 3,000 years. So I don't expect it changing anytime soon. The value of stakeholder engagement. As a major, having to convince multiple star generals, the SecDef, and even President Obama to go along with my harebrained plans, that was the biggest lesson. Was, you know, and your plan had to be defensible, right? So there is a best answer, and then there's the defensible answer, right? Because if you like, well, the best answer would have been doing some shady stuff and moving stuff out through Iran, right? Or maybe trying I was all about trying the Russian thing again, because hey, if they steal it, we don't have to move it, right? I will let them steal everything, because I knew it was going to end up. I'm like, yeah, but that was right. Exactly. The China is so skinny that they figured out how to get there. But they were pretty funny about what they would take and what they wouldn't. But yeah, so that was the biggest lesson learned, is building those the stakeholders and stakeholder engagement and management. I think you guys probably have that on most things. Yes.
After that experience, is there anything you would have done differently? Hindsight is 2020, but is there?
I would have had them start cutting stuff up earlier. I would have not set my sights so high on recovery. Like, you just got to be realistic, because it was to the point where we would ship it back for free if there was a U.S. state or local government that needed it. But nobody wanted it. Like, what am I going to do with it? Like, you know, your local police department, and you need one armored car, and that costs them money to maintain, right? Again, no bumper to bumper warranty. Here's your thing, right? So yeah, that was something. It was cheaper just to cut it in pieces and sell it to the Chinese. Because shipping a 25-ton truck halfway around the world, or three-quarters, we never went the short way. So the three-quarters way around the world was very expensive. Especially when you're talking about hundreds of them, thousands of them. Yeah. Any other questions? So I think, so here, I'll back, so her thing is, so philosophically, there's been problems in the Middle East for thousands of years. Why does the US keep getting involved? One is what else we're going to do with all that money? I'll get to that. So it is. It is. Well, I'll back it up, right? So so I when I did that SAM's class, right? So you're deep thinking, you're doing all the years of history and how it got to the military way of thinking that we have today. So they draw the line of this is why we think the way we think militarily. And I'm like, we've got to solve this problem because I've been to Iraq a couple times. I've been to Afghanistan. Like, well, why can't we solve this problem? Is there a model from the past we can apply to the area? There is, but it's not a good one. But there's only one. I'll get to it. I'm like, can we use the Marshall Plan? No, I dug in the Marshall Plan. Marshall Plan really wasn't a plan. The European banks actually did most of the Marshall Plan for us. The South Reconstruction. Well, that kind of is different because the South kind of just became what the South was. If you have a Western style country with an established economy and a means to sustain itself and its population, it snaps back pretty quick, right? But if you have a second or third world country that is either a petrostate or something without a viable economy to support its people, it's a different problem. If you look at, and the only model that I found that is even semi-possibly tangentially applicable was the UK and the Dutch in India. That took 200 years to get somewhere, and another 100 years to get where they are now. And there's still, there's still things happening, right? So we're talking a multi-century investment if you really want to make a difference. And no one's willing to do that in a four-year election cycle. Well, so they want to make a difference. That's the thing. So philosophically, no, it's good. It's good. How much time do we have left? No, I can. This is a good question, right? So if you want to start a project, you want to have the right outcomes, right? So if you think about the world post World War II and the wars that have this reality, it's not the people, it's some people in charge of the people that wanted some things, right? But post World War II, we stopped fighting for things. We stopped fighting for riches, or outwardly, right? Vietnam. We never talked to Ho Chi Minh. We never determined what the real problem was there. We backed some bad people in the South. There were some bad people in the North. The Chinese and Russians got involved. It got really messy, really complicated. If we would have won the Vietnam War, what would we have gained? I don't know. What resources, and this is me just looking at an old school way, what resources were there to gain as a result of this war? Because we have to stop thinking, well, we don't have to stop thinking this, but it's nice to think idealistically. But if you look at the world before World War II, you fought for things. You fought for space, you fought for yourself, you fought for riches, land, and that's what you fought for. But now we fight for ideologies, we fight to bring peace to these people and democracy to these people. That's a weird thing to fight for in the span of history. It is. Yeah, it is. Well, it comes back. Yeah, it comes back to that. But at the same time, we spent, almost 20 years in Afghanistan. Iraq had oil. We had it anyway. But here's where I got really confused, right? Because I agree with you, right? You have to fight for something. I'm a realist, right? You fight for something. You want a result. You want a positive net result. And yes, it costs lives and treasure, and it always has, and it always will. So we figure out how to resolve differences some other way. That's what it's going to cost. It's just realism. But when we're in Iraq, and there was the contract let for the management of the southern oil fields, and we let Iraq give that contract to PetroChina. I was like, well, that's just weird. Like, I thought that we'd give that to Halliburton or, maybe Exxon or maybe real feeling generous, RDC, Dutch Shell. But PetroChina, I was like, oh, who's going that next? Rosneft, right? So that's where things don't align. So that's, if I was in charge, and believe me, I don't want to be, but we provided governance, we provided basic services, made sure all that stuff was set up. We never did that in Iraq and Afghanistan. Not really, because as an aviator, you fly over it all, and you see everything. You don't see everything, but you see more than most. And I'll use this as an example. We had this monster neighborhood in North Baghdad. It's a homogenous neighborhood. It's one of the richer neighborhoods in Baghdad. And they had it split, and one half went to one battalion, one half went to the other battalion. This battalion was getting blown up every day and shot at all the time. This battalion wasn't. And I was confused. Like, these people are all the same. It's a neighborhood. Like, what's going on? So I did a little digging, found out all the people over here didn't like the way they're being treated by the battalion that's working over here. These guys were like passing out refrigerators and generators and water and milk. So everybody wanted to shoot an American. They go over there, shoot those guys, not these guys. There's no consistency of application, right? So the military's has this concept they call mission command, at least in the Army, where it seems to you provide direction, not to the point of prescription for the next unit. So you want to have that commander's intent that goes down. But what's missed in that, and if you listen to the way it's described and all the history behind it, which sadly, I'm happy I got to learn it, but that is because you should be able to trust your subordinate leaders to think like you. And when I say do this, they get what you mean. They don't say do this, and then they say, well, we'll do this. Like, they don't change the inflection, right? But they do the way we run things, and nobody's checking things. There's no KPIs in the military, right? There just isn't. Like, there's none that we should have. But we're working on it. We're working on it. But I wouldn't give it anytime soon. I think on the way in, it's my current pet peeve because I work in an AI company, is we spent all these billions and billions of dollars on AI. How much have we spent on training people how to use it? Near zero. Yeah. Ideally, it would have been easy today, but working for an AI defense-facing AI company, it's still a challenge because the data is there. The data is there in the databases that are accessible by the AI. There's APIs on the commercial side that this works all the time. But the government, the way that contracts are written and software is deployed in the government is different. So there's some kind of, there's a layer between the operation and the data that's proprietary. It's like, no, it's on a SQL server right there. No, you can't get through this to get to that, right? So that's kind of the challenge, right? Is it could be easy, but there were so many different systems, the Air Force and the Army and the Marine Corps and everybody else that Yes, the AMC, Army AMC, Army Material Command, has 47 or 49, I think, different accounting systems that they use. That's just them. And they've tried 4 times to reconcile that. And it just got too big. So, yeah, big monster. But you never pass an audit. Marine Corps did, though. Congratulations. All right. Any questions? I have time for one more. I have got a I've got
I'm rolling off a program, and to stakeholder engagement, I'm looking to all you guys to see if I can leverage my network a little bit to find my next thing. 20 years DoD Navy support, 5 to 8 years of federal civilian I'm open to anything in that space or on the commercial side as well. So, sitting up here, if you have any contact, Dave Campbell, you can look me up as well. Appreciate anything you have to offer. Thanks.
Okay, thank you for being members. It's rained a little bit when we were down here. I think it's dried up now, but safe travels to everyone home. Happy Passover again to all our Jewish faith members and guests, and we'll see everyone the first Wednesday of May. Have a great month. Thank you.